Yes.
We
So
cover
today, for those that are tuning in, if you didn't see our thing 2 weeks ago, that's okay, because today we're going to be digging in much deeper on a variety of things. And one of the challenges, Mark, I know one of the things you do is track all of the enhancements and additions to FME as the year unfolds. And seeing that volume of stuff, what kind of job is it to turn that into a 1-hour highlight deep dive?
It's going to be pretty tough. If you're talking about deep dive, then we can only dive in so many places in that time. So we'll cover some of what we think are the most important topics, but we won't be able to get to everything in there, not by a long way.
The best way, of course, is for folks to get the product and experiment and play. Yeah. And there's just a large number of what we hope are good productivity enhancing things. Yeah. And some of them you'll see Mark highlight, and others you will just discover for yourselves. But there's been a lot of effort. I think we showed a video of the check-in activity. We have a way of visualizing that here at SAFE about all the code changes. Mark, you probably haven't seen that, have you?
I haven't seen it for this year, but I've seen it before. Yeah.
Yes, but the rate of change, I think there was 30% more check-ins in this calendar year, the calendar year of 2013, than there was in the previous year. So
I can believe that.
Yeah, just a lot of changes, and we try extremely hard to make sure that we all stay backward compatible. Some of the stuff like the null was very hard for us to make that change in FME to support nothing. To do that in a way that doesn't change past behavior was quite tricky, but we managed, I think, to thread our way through.
Sure. Yeah. On screen at the moment, I've got the What's Great document for this year. So if you're interested in a full list of what's available, you can go to our blog.safe.com, and look for the What's Great. And basically, we've got, like all these check-ins you talk about, I go through all of those and I flag up which ones are great and which ones the users need to know about, and that all gets listed on this page here. So it's certainly worth looking at if you're interested in a particular format, and perhaps we're not going to mention it today. Have a look in here, and that'll show you everything that's been updated. Well, good morning to everyone. This is the official start of the webinar, so thank you everyone for tuning in. We're going to look at FME Desktop in a bit more detail today. We won't be able to cover every topic, but we'll cover as many as we can. Let's see. So, yeah, presenting today, there's myself, the product evangelist at SAFE, and Dale Lutz. Is it Lutz or Lutz?
I say Lutz, and the Germans, I think, online would concur, and the Swiss as well.
Okay.
It was a little bit awkward, that photo shoot we did there, wasn't it, Mark?
It was, yes. I don't like that photo anyway, so I'm quite glad it's been photoshopped and I'm hidden a bit. So the agenda today, we're looking at well, a bit of everything, I think. We're looking at a bit of cloud, database, some raster, point clouds, BIM, Workbench and Inspector as well. We'll be looking at those in particular, I think, because that's where the really biggest changes have been this year. I'd certainly say so. Yeah,
I would agree.
And we have, of course, a panel of experts waiting to take your questions. So please do ask them whatever questions you can think of. We have Mark, Robin, and James. So Mark is head of our Pro Services team. Robin is the head of the support, desktop support. And James is a relative newcomer to SAFE. I'm not sure how long you've been.
So you should see if you can stump James, people.
We can try. Somebody suggests we should have Dan doing this so he could be Diver Dan.
Yes.
I've actually I've seen the Mythbusters show where they went diving and the air supply got cut off and what happened. So let's hope that doesn't happen to us today. So is this talking about, is it SAFE software in general?
Yeah, just there we go.
Well, you're
There's
probably
about 100 of us now.
Yep, and partners worldwide, literally every continent, I suspect, except Antarctica maybe. I don't know if we stretch that far. Do we have any users in Antarctica?
Well, you know what? I have a relative that flies there regularly. He's in the Air Force in New Zealand, and I've given him some safe swag to take a picture of it in Antarctica, but he hasn't come through yet. But I think there's been a safe spork in Antarctica.
Okay,
So,
fantastic.
there you go.
And we're located in Surrey, British Columbia, and we have lots of organizations and users that use our software and rely on it. I'm guessing that photo there was taken at one of our World Tour events.
Looks like Calgary to me.
Okay, and we'll mention that later, I suspect.
Yeah.
The World Tour. But I'm guessing if this is a deep dive, most folk are familiar with us already. So, and we're probably fairly familiar with which version of FME you're using. So I think we'll skip that poll.
Let's skip it.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're new to FME, again, I'm not sure if you will be since this is a deep dive. But if you are, there's the Getting Started page on our website. We have a weekly introductory webinar as well. We have tutorials, online trainings. There's so many things on our resources on our website that you can find and use, and we invite you to do that. So the first thing we're going to look at today was the new look and feel of Workbench, and I've got an article online about my top 10 updates, but we're going to show you a few today and go into a little bit more detail in there and see what we've got. So one of the things I wanted to show was the difference between 2013 and 2014, because it really is quite a spectacular difference when you switch from one to the other. So this is a workspace that I created, and this is it showing in 2013, and that's what it looks like in 2014. And that's quite a dramatic change. We'll just go back to the 2013 version just to go back and show you. Looks a lot more anemic. I think the extra coloring is one of the things that's a benefit, and that is, I think one of the big changes now is the annotation. You can set the color, you can set font, so the font size, font type, all sorts of things like that. Background color. A lot more that we can do now with the annotation in Workbench. Word wrap and resizing as well in the annotation. So before it used to be that you'd type along, and if you needed a new line, you'd hit return like a typewriter almost, and just keep typing that way and hit return and hit return. Well, now you don't need to do that. We can resize the annotation. We can click on that and drag it to resize it, and also, I believe it'll word wrap automatically as well. So if you just keep typing, I think it'll word wrap as well. So they're pretty useful updates there. Hyperlinks as well. You can now put hyperlinks and tables as well. So we've got sort of limited HTML rich text support in there. And so yeah, just those are the annotations. You can make it stand out a bit more. I mean, before it was just sort of yellow and yeah, didn't stand out too well. So what else have we got? Well, we've got more decorations on there as well. I mean, they're just sort of hints really as to what individual things are doing. So you can see there's decoration on the on that reader feature type to say data's coming in. Different transformers have different decorations to try and tell you what they're doing. There's particularly ones that have got data coming in or out of Workbench. In particular, those will have decorations on to tell you. The more space, if you look on the inspector on the right hand side, it's called Clipper Inside. If I just flip back, it used to be Clipper _ins in 2013, and now it's Clipper Inside. So we've tried to squeeze as much space as we can out of the headers. The same thing with that feature type. It says JSON feature. Before it used to be JSON feature ...
And that was a hand-to-hand combat, pixel by pixel, trying to squeeze as much in. And I know I shouldn't talk about the future here, but folks have asked us for many years, can I just drag these babies and resize them horizontally? And it could be a good thing or a bad thing, but we definitely have laid the foundation to explore doing that in 2015. So if you would love to resize horizontally, please chime into the questions right now to place your vote. and then we'll definitely record that.
So we had to click and drag on the edge of the transformer.
Yes.
To get bigger. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Sort of spring that on you there, Mark.
That's okay. I'm not. It's not a surprise to me. I know we've been talking about that for a while. The other thing will be no single input ports, and this is probably quite subtle. I didn't even notice this at first, but we've got rid of input ports if there's just one of them. So you can see on this vertex creator and coordinate system setter in this workspace that they don't have an input port. So basically, the connection lines just connect straight into the header of the transformer itself.
And that was an example where it's kind of like when the chocolate got accidentally mixed with the peanut butter and something great happened. That was a programming bug that the developer made that caused all the single input ports to disappear, and all of a sudden he realized he liked it better than normal. He invited a parade of people in and showed them the look, and almost nobody could notice what changed. We just all liked it until he would say there's no input port. So that's when we knew we had a winner.
Yeah. So I guess that's been a theme in this, is try and save as much real estate as we can on the canvas, because I know folks' workspaces are getting larger and larger, and we figure that whatever we can do to save some space, make it easier to use. Okay, what else have we got? Oh, the camel case ports. I mean, before we would shout point, line, polygon at you, and now it's a bit more. Now it's lowercase or camel case. It's a bit more friendly, I think, to you.
A little less mapping file reference there for those that suffered through mapping files 20 years ago. We finally cut the last cord.
Yeah. So there's some other things I wanted to show as well. Let me fire up Workbench to do that. So this is the same workspace. One of the things was pop-up buttons, which is a new thing. It's probably fairly obvious when you see this happening. So it's not like this is hidden in any way. If I drag this transformer and drop it into position here, you'll notice we have this little pop-up box, and the pop-up box lets me change which connections get connected automatically. Before it used to be, if you remember, it used to be a big dialog that popped up, and you had to make all these connections on the dialog. Well, now it's just a little pop-up box, and I can say let's fix the clippy instead of the clipper. And then we can do that, and I connect it to the other one. I can say, okay, let's disconnect that output port. So it's just a very quick way of handling input and output ports like that. And the one thing I did notice there is the pink dot changed from a dot to a triangle, but
you can't stop progress, Mark.
No. Will it be a square next year, or some other shape? So one of the other changes is with attribute values. We used to call these constants, but what we've done is we've changed it in a way that they're not actually a constant anymore.
Yes.
So if we look at, in fact,
can you zoom it in,
zoom it way in.
Yeah, let's zoom our way in on that.
So zooming in on this feature type here, I've got two, basically it's a metadata feature type. I've got two fields, name and email address, and what I can do is right click on those and click edit value. Now I can type a constant in as well. I could say my name is Mark Island and just click OK, and you'll see that becomes a little pink arrow on there now, so that's highlighting it. And that's important because if you switch from 2013 to 2014 and you've got constants set in your workspace, they will get changed to this automatically. So if you wonder why they've disappeared, this is what's happened. And I can right click and just edit that value or clear that value. But apart from being a constant value, I can open up this little text editor now and start making edits in here, so I can construct something. I could say mark.island at, and then maybe put in a published parameter, like create a published parameter, something like that. So I could say my email site, whatever you call it, email domain. So I can create a published parameter, and And then I can enter safe.com. So it's not necessarily just a constant now. It can be constructed out of published parameters, system parameters as well, and things like that. I noticed we don't do attributes in there, Dan. I'm guessing there's a reason that we can't. That's technically.
At that point in the process, we can't get at them. But if you did it earlier, you'd get at them.
So yeah, so we can do that in a transformer itself. Is that right? If we've got. So
if you add one, you have to add an attribute.
Okay. So we can right-click, add an attribute. So we'll call it my attribute.
As long as there's attributes floating around, you should be able to edit the value there.
So now we can edit that attribute. And
should be able to get at the full.
Yep, there we go. So we can start making things up like battery and then put battery level. So things like that, and publish parameters too. So you can construct transformers. Now there was an example we saw of a user doing that. Can you remember exactly what they were doing, Dale, with that?
Yes, what Takashi, I'm not sure if Takashi is on from Japan, but we should send that link out. And actually, Stephanie, if you're listening, maybe you can send out the link to everybody, or I can while Mike's talking, to FME Memorandum. Okay. It's a blog. I'll send that out while you're talking, Mark. But he uses this. He's discovered some really interesting uses of this we didn't even think of. And for example, like if you're doing the bounding box transformer, you could put a width and height attribute on your bounding box just by using this technique and doing some math. So that's just one of his examples, but he's got 3 or 4 there. I'll send the link out to folks while you carry on. Okay.
Yeah, that was a very interesting blog he's got. And he posts quite often as well, so I can recommend that. Okay, so a couple of other things now with connections and selection methods. One thing that we changed that I really like is how you move a connection. You can just click on that connection anywhere and drag it now. Whereas before, if you remember in 2013, you could click on it and the little handles would come up and you had to grab the handle and pull it into position. Well, now you don't have to do that. You just need to click and you can just drag from anywhere in there, which is great if you've got a connection that goes, say, all the way across your screen like this. You don't need to find the handle. You can just click and drag and move it to a new position. So that's quite useful. And you can tell which end is going to get moved by the little highlight that appears on each end. If you hover your mouse over it, I don't know if you can see that, but the top of that connection it's a little bit thicker, and down the bottom now it is. So
it's like that Fox hockey puck that we are so fond of here in Canada.
Yeah, that was an old technology that didn't last, but it was highlighting where the hockey puck goes on a TV hockey game. So
yes, and that we just love that. But the same technology is used for the first down marker in football, Mark. So in the Super Bowl, you'll be able to see that same technology.
I did look at that Fox technology, and apparently they cut that puck open and put sensors inside and all sorts. It was very cool, but
yes.
Anyway, the other difference is in the selection method, and we put this in, and then we got a bit scared, I think, and hid it just in case it caused problems for folk. But basically, before, if you wanted to select an item, you had to cover those items completely before they get selected. Well, now you can just drag the box over part of that, and then we'll get selected. But we hid that, and you have to turn it on specifically. So if you go to Tools, FME Options, and Workbench, there's this little setting here that's new. It says Canvas selection must fully contain objects, and by default that's turned on, and so that'll give you the default behavior. Basically, you have to enclose features completely, objects completely before they get selected. But what I do is I like to turn that off because I prefer it off. And now I can just say select those transformers by sort of drawing down the middle. I don't have to select them all in the view.
And yes, but you can get that, as you mentioned, Mark, I think if you hold down Alt while you drag, right?
Yes, I believe so. If it's one of the keys, Alt or Control, that will do that. Yes, it's the Alt key. So the Alt key basically reverses the behavior.
Yes. Now we are actually. It's my friend Helmut Stepan is on from Germany, and he's shown us some examples of huge workspaces where, and that was what was weighing in our mind when we went back to the old behavior. We didn't want you to accidentally nick a connection and then have it deleted. That was what the concern was.
So if I got a connection like this and I selected those two transformers, then that connection gets selected. So that's something to be aware of.
When you're Now what we're gonna go back and put that functionality back in FME 2015, and we have a very clever, what we think, way of dealing with that particular issue. But anyway, for folks with big workspaces, that's why we didn't make it the default behavior.
But I like this when I've got a whole bunch of transformers like this. I can just select them all down there in a row, right click, and choose the align button, and line them all up like so, which really makes it easy for me. And on that topic, I suspect we should mention the grid and the auto layout.
The lack of.
The lack of, yes. Since we removed those, I guess we didn't think folk used them that much.
Yes, so I've asked, we didn't think, and I know that already today there's been some feedback in the chat logs wanting those things returned, and so they are going to have to make a comeback. The issue that we had was that the layout tool we used was a library we licensed years and years ago that only worked on Windows 32-bit, which is, as time goes on, likely to become less and less important. Windows 64-bit, for example, we had no way to do. And so that was why we didn't do that. We're going to look at maybe bringing back some kind of auto layout, and the results of this poll will definitely play a role in that. We've given a few choices here. You can see the Workbench grid. Bruce Harold, who's on from Esri, gave me some interesting feedback there. We didn't include it because nobody at SAFE used it either. The fact used to be a grid lines you could put down. But Bruce had this idea to use a very coarse grid, so all of your transformers are organized almost in like a table. And so that's something that we may look to bring back too. So you think that's long enough, Mark, for folks to get their votes in?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be really interested to see the results here. And manual fiddling, you really just can't beat that.
That's what I do, to be honest. Like I showed, there's quite a few of these, because I'm very, very obsessive about having straight lines, more or less straight lines. So I line things up and I right click and there's the align options, so I can align things left and right and vertically and horizontally, and also spread them out as well. So just to maybe show that, if I got a bunch of these creator transformers, let me zoom in. So what I can do is I can just sort of move one or two of them to the side like that, select all of them, right click, spread vertically, and it'll spread them out in a nice even layout, and then I can align them down the center as well. So there are some align tools in there, and I do really suggest that you use them, especially for the manual fiddling that 80% of you do. Yes. I find those really, really useful for that.
Well, and I think, we have some ideas that we're going to introduce around this, and the fact that so many do manual fiddling, I think that actually is good news to me, because that's in line with one of our plans. So I'll just leave that as a bit of a cliffhanger, almost as good as the Sherlock cliffhanger, to wonder where we're going there.
Okay. And yeah, somebody mentioned that the percentages don't add up, which is fine because it's a multiple choice. You could select more than one option.
Yeah, vote early and vote often. That's what we say here in Canada.
Yes. Okay, custom transformers. Let me fire up another workspace to show you what we do. But in general, some of the updates on here, we've got better schema management, because that was one of the things I think a lot of people were having trouble with. And also, we've got versioning, which I think that really could be a big thing for some of our users, is to have versions of custom transformers. So let me fire up my workspace. Okay. So this workspace is creating It's basically an instance of what we called a KML diagrammer, which you can download from the FME store. If you just type KML diagrammer in FME, it'll come up as a download you can get. And what it does is basically creates items like this, where you can have three-dimensional graphics that represent a certain value, like, I don't know what this is, whether it's population or the amount of FME users in that state or whatever it is. But we can create 3D diagrams in KML pretty easily like that. So that's what that transformer is doing. And you can download it from the FME store. But what I've done is I've deconstructed it back into its original components, just so I can show you what we've changed in custom transformers for 2014. So what I'm going to do is select all of these items, and I guess I don't even need to select all of them. I just drag over half of it because that new functionality. I'm going to right click and say create custom transformer. Okay, before I do that, I'll just show you we've got a few attributes coming into that which adjust the size of those objects, the shape of it, whether it's a circle or a square, and applies a scale to it as well. And it's applying it to this attribute X, which is some sort of value that's coming through. So I'm going to right click, create custom transformer. I'm going to call it webinar demo, and you'll see one of the new settings that we've got now is how do you want to handle attribute references? Do you want to do it manually, or do you want to do that with published parameters? So I'm going to leave it set up to be published parameters and click OK. So now we've created this custom transformer, but you'll find that FME has automatically set up all these published parameters for you for the size of the attributes, the scale attributes, the shape, and the attribute as well. So now you can see that, and if I open this up, it's all set automatically, so I just need to pick which attributes I'm using when I do that. So we've done that to make it a bit easier. So we basically set up all of these automatically. You don't need to go in, you don't need to use attribute exposers or anything like that. You don't need to create your own published parameters. Basically we'll do all of that for you.
You know, Mark, I also found out last night when I was fiddling that you can edit the name. If you change center point there, whatever, you can just push F2 or otherwise.
Okay. I just
that would do it too. But anyway,
yeah.
And you can name that like input something talking like that. And if you go back out to the main, then change that to output, and you hop back out, and there you go. And that's one small step for a man.
Yep. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an extra attribute here, and I'll call it my new attribute. So we're going to say, okay, well, I've got a new attribute in here that I want to use and edit into this transformer. How do I do that now? Because by default it's not coming through. You can see when I double clicked on that, and we've got a little cogwheel now. So there's basically a parameters button for the inputs and output ports. And if I click that, I can say, my new attribute, I think I'll have that, please. I can expose it, click OK. And we did it automatically as well. So you can see automatically we now have the published parameter for when I did that. So if I open that up and say, OK, creation instance, click OK, we've now got a published parameter for that as well. So that's all automatic. And we've got the same thing on the output. It's not creating published parameters, but you can say, well, which attributes do I want to output from this? And to be honest, I probably don't want to output any of them. Maybe attribute X, but like that. And that chooses what is going to be output from there. So if I go back to here, okay.
Yeah. No, but that's only the ones that got added, Mark. So I think that's correct.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. You can't get rid of stuff that was on the outside, but
was already there already. Okay.
But see, that's a big deal because a lot of times people make temporary attributes in the middle of a custom transformer, and you don't want that sloshing around outside.
So if I create a temporary attribute in here, I can make sure it doesn't appear on the output by.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
That's exactly right.
Because that's what I used to suggest everyone as best practice, that if you created an attribute in here, you'd call it _transformer and then the attribute name.
Yes.
And then put an attribute remover in there to get rid of them. But,
right.
This is way easier to do. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm wondering if will that work with old custom transformers, this new functionality. I suspect it's only with ones that you create from scratch in 2014.
Only Shelley knows. I don't. I have not tried that.
We'd have to look that up to find that out for you. But anyway.
I think there's a good chance it would, actually.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, so that's what the input options do now. They create published parameters, they expose that within your transformer. Now the other thing we did with this was create versioning. So if I export this to a custom transformer, because versioning only works in linked, I believe, it doesn't work embedded. So I'm creating this as an external custom transformer. Now one of the things I need to do is just close that down and open it up again. Okay, so at the moment, hopefully you can see right at the top here, it's got the webinar demo.fmx and it's called it version 1. So this is basically version 1 of that transformer. Now if I make any changes in here, say I move something about, I create a new attribute, do anything in here to make a change, as soon as I hit the save button it says, okay, well, do you want to overwrite what was in there in the existing version, or do you want to create a new version? So I'm going to say let's make a new version. And now hopefully you can see right at the top of the screen it says version 2 instead of version 1. And if I go back into my original workspace, at the moment I'm still on version 1. I can hover over it and we can see that it says version 1 in the tooltip. I'm going to just refresh my transformer gallery just to make sure it picks up the new version. Now I can right click and say okay, upgrade this to the latest version of that transformer. So that's going to be really useful if you're sharing a custom transformer with folk and you make an update to it. You don't have to send that out to them again. You just need to tell them there's a new version. They can right click and say upgrade to that latest version.
And Roger Wiss had asked us if FME 2014 is backward compatible with old releases, and the answer is yes. You can bring workspaces from the past into here, and we strive at that's our utmost goal that everything just works. On the other hand, if you make a workspace in FME 2014 and try to edit it in FME 2013 or older, there's no very little chance that that's going to work. But part of that whole backward compatibility mantra is made better or easier with this versioning idea for custom transformers, because now we can make new versions of our custom transformers and old things that people have will still work. And so that's and that you can do that as well.
Yes, that versioning is great. So you can have different versions in different versions of FME, if you like. Is that right?
Yeah, that you can also even do that.
So you could have it within one custom transformer. You could have a 2013 version and a 2014 version.
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
And I give high marks to Mark Van Ness, who's talking to us from the Netherlands, has noticed that when it's just named input and there is only one port, we don't go to the fancy.
That's right.
So we should send Mark a sport for noticing that. So there's something to bug Shelley about.
Yeah, we should do that. So one other change we've got as well, a minor one but useful. If you want to change this to embedded, you can do that, but it used to be that you can only do that one at a time, and I believe now you can select a whole bunch of things and embed them, although I'm not finding it in there. So
I don't remember how that's done.
Yeah, okay, well that's what you get when you go off-roading, which I'm doing now. But I was pretty sure you could do that. You could embed a whole bunch at once, but anyway. Okay, back to the PowerPoint then, before I embarrass myself anymore. Let's see, support for embedding password-protected custom transformers, which we found was very useful. Was that in reference to FME Server, mostly, I think?
Yes.
Because we found that most people with FME Server were using embedded custom transformers.
Yeah.
So now you can password-protect those as well, if you need. Okay, Data Inspector. So I don't know if there were that many changes, but the one big one was being able to save your data as, which was the one thing I think was lacking when we ported over from the FME viewer. And also we've got some additional background maps. Now background maps, were they they weren't introduced in 2013. They were a service pack, weren't they?
That's right. And so many folks may not have ever really used Data Inspector. In FME 2014, it is the primary inspection application, and so you're going to be starting to use it whether you like it or not.
I think the view is still in there, but I mean, it's at a point now where you really should be using the Data Inspector. So anyway, so I'm going to open some data. I'm going to open some KML. Let me see, data boundaries. So this is a map of Vancouver neighborhoods, and okay, so we have that. And just in case you come straight from the base of 2013 to 2014, you won't have seen the background options. So Tools, FME Options, and you can now apply a background map.
Now Howard has asked what format can they be, and so there you see we've got, what, 5 that are tile services. And then you can also use any FME format as well if you want to. But so
I can do that. I can say, let's pick TIFF files. Let me find. I've got the author photos in here, so I can say all of these TIFF files are going to be my background. And now, if I open that data up, we should.
I've never seen this work before. Oh, look at that, Mark! You're gutsy.
There you go. Yep. Oh yeah, done this before. The other thing we can do. With the color as well, we can change the color of the neighborhoods, and we can change it to have semi-transparent now, which I don't know if we could do that before. I don't remember seeing that, but oops, that made it a bit too transparent perhaps. Let's change it to a bit brighter color. There we go. So yeah, so you can have background maps, but it doesn't have to be raster.
Yes.
You could use any of the FME supported formats, so we could do anything like that. The other things that are new specifically for 2014 are the Mapbox and the MapQuest tile services. Mapbox, I think you need an account for.
You can get a free account, and then you can make your own map, and as long as you use it less than 30 times a day, it's free.
Okay.
The MapQuest, on the other hand, is always free, and so Mark can go and fiddle with that.
You can pick
there's 2 choices.
Map or Open Aerial. Yep.
Now, many of our customers are already ArcGIS Online users, and so if you have ArcGIS Online, that probably is, for most GIS things, almost hard to beat. But in case you don't, then these are good options.
And so yeah, this is the MapQuest OpenStreetMap data that they've got.
Yeah, and if you zoom in tight there, it'll refresh and look nice and.
Yep. It should.
Come on.
There we
Hello.
go.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, so background maps, that's was in a service pack for 2013, and now we've added some extra.
So we're looking at adding Nokia's here as another one. So if any, I'd be curious how many people would use the Nokia here maps. That's a possibility. And somebody has asked if we could do an in-house ArcGIS server background map, and I think we have the technology for that. Victor, if you'd like to just send us more details about how that would work, that's one area that I'd be very interested in seeing us being able to do.
And someone else is asking about Google Earth and Google Maps, which I don't know if that's something we can do.
Well, people would have to have a key from Google in order to unlock that.
Okay.
So we can't do it legally with sort of the public ones. But if you had a corporate license, then we might be able to. So we need to explore that with them. Some people have asked, but if we reproject, the answer is the background map sets the projection and will reproject your data to fit it, which is the first time we've ever done reprojection in our inspection tool, but we have done that.
That's right. Just out of interest, do you think we could use a custom format in there? I don't see why not.
Yes, it can work.
Good. I won't try now, but
yeah.
So
let's make one and try it right now.
Yeah, let's not and say we did. So if we open up a data set, yeah, that's like MicroStation that doesn't have a coordinate system, we can put the coordinate system in here and tell it what the coordinate system is. And if I do that, then I'll get the background map. If I don't tell it what the coordinate system is, then I won't get any background map because we won't be able to tell. And
if you get the coordinate system wrong, then all kinds of fun stuff happens. I've been over in Norway and in the Sahara and other places a few times.
Yes. Now the thing about that is you might not always want that because it's reprojected. Now the DGN data is in spherical Mercator, which might be not what I wanted. So in some cases, you'll perhaps want to turn that option off.
Yeah.
If you want the actual coordinates and not to be reprojected.
Someone has asked if we will use a proxy. I think the support folks can chime in, but I believe there is a way to configure a proxy which applies to all FME web access, and we actually have one of our QA people living behind a nasty proxy just to make sure everything works. So the answer will be yes. Oh, Mark, can you show the save data as yet?
Yes, I was just going to say we've got new function now to do file save data as, so we can just say let's save this as something else. But the more interesting one, I think, is we can do the, let's go back to this data, we can do selected features as well. So if I look in this table view, I can say, well, I want some data, I want Kitsilano and...
You're control clicking or something there?
I am, yes, and Fairview. So I've got those three selected. Now I can go in here and say File, Save Selected Data As, and let's just call it Neighbors again, FFS.
Yeah.
And basically we're saving those three features as that. So just to prove that that did work, let's try and find that data. FME output neighbors, there we go. So it just saved those three selected ones.
Yep.
So love that. And one other quick thing that we added, if you right click anywhere in the display, you can copy the ground coordinates, and so I could say paste them into a text document like so, and I would have those. So just right click, copy ground coordinates, and I'll get the coordinates at that point as well.
Yeah. Mark, you know what? We only have 20 minutes left, so we'll.
Oh man, we've really. Sorry, I'm using your timer very quickly. Do you have a quick comment about Mac and Linux?
Just that they're there. I think we got a poll question. If you click on, well, let's not bother looking at the screenshots. Let's just go ahead and ask the poll question here to see what platform would folks use, and then.
And this, I think, would be which one would you use if you had the chance. So if you could use Mac or Linux.
Or your own OS. I wonder if anybody out there, maybe Linus Torvalds is on. So anyway, yeah, Windows is 64 or 32-bit. But I think we'll call that good. And I'm just waiting to see if the Mac would have closed the gap. Mac was at the bottom of the barrel here, Mark.
Apart from writing your own. Which...
Yeah, we got some people that have their own. So, well, that's great to know. And so we'll just carry on from there. So, Mark, you're going to take a quick peek yet at. We're just going to talk through these really quickly. Of course, CAD and GIS is the main bulk. In case you've missed our graph, we're now up to about 325 formats plus all the external ones. And then if we look here at the next slide where we dig into, here is all the brand new ones. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper look in the time we have at a couple of them today, so I won't highlight this. You can get these slides later to examine more closely. The next slide is actually all the transformers, and there's a mouthful of those too.
Yeah, and you can find these again on the What's Great page on FMEpedia.
Yes.
On the Safe blog, sorry.
Yes. And so if you go looking at the deep dive, we look more at raster this time. There's many different ones, but in particular we're going to look at the Mapnik rasterizer. And if you go to the next slide, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We can just look at some of the kinds of output. If you click on these things, this has been produced. That's one with the building styler that there is, Vancouver data. I think cars are going the wrong way. Here's the hot tub shot.
Yep.
And so we can texture with different things. And then this is one done with a map, I guess, of the world with some kind of a raster. So, Mark, do you have a demo of the Mapnik rasterizer to walk us through?
I do. Yes, I have a very quick demo. Let me just fire that up. So I'm gonna just hit run on this to start it while we talk about it. But basically, this isn't as complicated as it perhaps looks. We're reading some crime statistics for Vancouver, which is non-spatial, but it's got a name of a block or a particular road. So we're merging in the roads, we're merging that data together, we're setting a color depending on how many crimes there are, either red, orange, or yellow. We're clipping that to the neighborhood boundaries, so we've got a set area. And then we're pushing that into the Mapnik rasterizer. And the rasterizer is going to turn that into a nice, pretty raster output for us. The interesting thing about the lines is, if we look in this edit button, we've set the line width to be equal to the number of crimes. So we can do a lot of things like that just by picking an attribute, or we've got the so I'll just go back to that quickly. We've got the arithmetic editor, so you can do all sorts of things in there.
In fact, you can even do conditional values in there too, couldn't you, Mark?
I suspect you probably could, conditional values. So you say if something, then the value is this. If something else, the value is that.
It's extremely powerful, so you can style right in at that level and get at all the parameters that the Mapnik rasterizer brings to the table. You can just pull down, if you hit cancel under the symbolizer, just show them all the different symbolizers there. Just to the left.
Yeah. So we've got building, which is that what makes the three-dimensional buildings?
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Lines, line patterns, markers, which I suspect are little icons, points, polygons, etc.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then this thing also uploaded to Amazon using our new S3 uploader, and so we can send out the link, Mark, to everybody. This is the image that was produced.
That was the image that we produced, just shown in the visualizer. Let me go back into the workspace, and that was another example. We've got a new S3 uploader and downloader transformer.
Yeah.
And we should have uploaded it to this location. I need to get rid of the apostrophe off the end.
Yeah, and if you chat that out to everybody, they can see it themselves. So this just gives a sense how easy it is to publish map tiles. What we didn't do was tile this up, but you could easily run this, produce tiles in Amazon S3, and then point your ArcGIS Online or other things at your tile cache.
Yeah. So basically we ran that, we created a raster, uploaded it to S3, and yeah, there you go. And there is an S3 downloader as well, which you can use, and which you can turn into a custom format, because I tried it, but I won't do it now.
So I'm going to just ask the poll here, what cloud services do folks use right now? This is our final poll of the day, and you can choose many of these. And we're looking at figuring out ways of extending FME's reach into these various areas. So yeah, Dropbox heavy favorite, and that's actually even Mark and I were using Dropbox to coordinate this presentation together with Stephanie. So I'm going to close the poll there.
Okay.
And we can see that Dropbox the favorite. Lots of folks using virtual machines in the cloud, running things that way. Actually, a lot of database action, S3 and databases. So pretty good. If you said other. Chime in.
Yeah, let us know which what you're using.
And so I think, Mark, I'm going to take over the presentation now.
Yes, you are. I'm going to make you the presenter, if I can find you. There we go. Okay, have you hidden everything up from your screen that shouldn't be there?
I hope so. Here we go. So let's show my screen. So I'll just do a couple of quick demos about ArcGIS Online and GME. So first of all, if I go here and go to my web thing, and I can see here's my ArcGIS Online account where I might have a bunch of data, in particular these Vancouver blocks. And if I go to my Workbench and I say, oh, that's a bad sign, Mark. If I go here and I open the workspace, let's do this. And let's look at ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Online to GML. So I'm reading that, and so the way we can do it is we can add a reader that is an ArcGIS Online feature service. I've saved my default authentication here just to be fast, but I go and I pick the feature service from my list of them, and that's where I would get this, and that was how this workspace was set up. And then I can run this. In this case, I'm just picking off the top 10, but you might be using this to sync other things. ArcGIS Online Writing coming very, very soon in the first service pack, and then you'll be able to upload stuff into there. If folks want to use FME with feature services from an actual ArcGIS server, please chat that in and we'll try it out. Now over here, let me just get rid of this and look at GME for a minute. Google Maps Engine. I got a couple of quick ones that I would love to show you on the GME side of things. So let's go here. Whoops, I've just, okay, open up. Open up demos, GME. And let's look at this one as an example that the City of Edmonton, among others, have done. This is a Socrata site. While it's running, I'll take a peek at it. So here's the Socrata public data site of the City of Edmonton with all their, this is community halls we're looking at here. And while we were away at the break, it was running, and now it's going to write into those things into GME. And how we're doing this, incidentally, is we can read right from the website as a CSV using the fact that FME can read anything from a web URL. So that's what we've done there. And so that just went up to GME, and I'll also open up, let me see, where's, oh, I hit the wrong button here. I didn't want to hit new, I want to open the other one, which was Salesforce leads. So here's an example of us reading Salesforce live, pulling out a bunch of addresses, and then we are actually concatenating together the address into a single string and putting it into this special GX location, which when you put that into GME, it'll do geocoding. So now we've finished reading, and now we're writing into GME, and it's making our table. We have to wait for GME to kind of sync up. And come on, GME, give me that table. Sometimes if it's busy, it takes a moment or two. There we go. And out, we're done. And so now if I go to my Maps engine and I refresh this page, there was no data sources there. And if things have gone at all well, there should be two. Yes. So there's my communities inside of Edmonton, and here's my Salesforce accounts, which are right now geocoding. So it may, yeah, there they go. So there should be mostly in British Columbia, but we have a few. Actually, it turns out we have one in Europe that says that it's. If you take a look at that one, it's kind of funny. The Department of Cartography is in British Columbia, in München. So I don't know, Michael Labarda, if BC is also in Munich, but it appears that it must be. And here's the rest as well. So a little bit of data problem, but nonetheless shows going Salesforce to GME. And tune in next week when you'll see Don do this live as leads come in at SAFE. He'll put points on a map for that. So that's what we had for those ones. We've done the cloud services. And we got some webinars specifically on these that you may want. If you're interested in this stuff, tune in the beginning of March, beginning of April for a couple of other things related to that. Okay, nulls. There's just no end of null fun, and I was going to play a Seinfeld riff because this is the demo about nothing, but since we're short on time, Mark, maybe I won't.
Okay.
And so the example I was going to show was this transit. So this is a shape file here that has some empty fields. You can't have null in shape, but you have an empty bay. And this is an example of a PostGIS data set where we actually have nulls in for the bays. And it turns out that this particular one, the Brentonwood, is actually in the data set it's wrong. This is in PostGIS now, it's incorrect. And so I have the ability to use the new database updater, so 6 bus stops, update the bus stops. So I'm going to just go ahead and run this, and this also illustrates the fact that we're using this null attribute mapper to take the blank that was in the bus stop and make it into a true null. So when we do the update using this fancy new database updater that knows about the columns, for example, of the database, among other things, so I can go in here and figure out what column I would like to use to, yeah, there we go, whoops, okay, and I can use that to, I think I got troubles here, so I won't try any harder, but I can use this to configure that completely and then update it and move it. And I got some other troubles because I think my database isn't awake this morning, Mark. I'm sorry about that.
Or maybe it's because it was running and you were opening that transformer at the same
Yeah,
time.
I wonder if I would. Oh yeah, how about that? You're right.
Yeah.
I had locked the table while I was doing that.
Yeah.
So 3 cheers for Mark Ireland. And if I go back here and I just hit refresh, with luck, this one that I'm pointing at will disappear. Whew. And it's a happy day. And if I select these right here, I should end up with 2 things selected. And sure enough, I do. And there they both are. So thank you, Mark Ireland, for saving my demo. So that's just a very quick thing. There's lots of stuff you can do with nulls. We're going to do a whole webinar on nulls since they're just so much darn fun.
And there is the article on the FME Evangelist about nulls as well.
Yes, and I already sent around FME memorandum. Takashi's been doing a big exploration of that. So I'll very quickly look at point clouds here. So if we go and look at demos, point clouds, I'll just drag out this fellow onto here, and I'll run this. What we're doing here is illustrating the fact that we have in E57, if I go and just add a reader for E57, we can have many measurements per point. And in fact, it can be almost user-defined to change from data set to data set. So in this particular case, when I pop up the parameters, these are many of the standard ones that these are what they're named in that file where we're going to name them inside FME. And we get down into here, we have some standard ones, or sorry, user-defined ones like Cartesian invalid state. So they've stored a whole bunch of points in this file that are invalid. And what we're doing here is saying when the Cartesian state is 0, then we're going to say that that's a not valid point, and we're going to pop them down into here, and then we can find out how many. I use the point cloud extractor to see how many were invalid. So we've taken E57, filtered out the invalid ones, wrote the result to last. If you look in here, the last thing actually will tell you that when it's writing, it's dropping these components because it doesn't know what to do with them. So this is very powerful. If you're using point clouds, you'll want to check that out. Uh-oh. Are we still healthy? Everything good, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Just a quick look at Revit. So we've got on the Revit side our friends at CEI, one of the bigger architectural firms here in British Columbia, where I happen to have a brother-in-law who's the marketing guy. They gave us one of their Revit models to play with, so thanks CEI. This is a garbage dump house of some sort. Just love garbage dump houses. And so if we take a look at what we can do, you use Revit and you have a plugin in there to dump out that data in something we call an RVT file. But then we can go ahead and run this translation, which will get me a bill of materials and a 3D PDF of the results. So we're reading a number of things while it's going. Oh, I can't add a reader there, but maybe I'll try adding a reader here. So if I say File, Open Data Set, if I say Revit, one of the interesting things we've done, and where is that Revit? Here we go, Revit. And we've provided out of the box a number of different ways of considering what the data is in Revit. And so you can read everything, or you can use one of our pre-cooked recipes to just get the floor plan, or if you're going to GIS, the envelope. There's a lot of complication in there, and we're trying to anticipate people's desires by cooking in a variety of predefined things. So that's one thing we're doing in this example. Oh, another trick, when we read doors, we replace them with their 3D bounding box, again, to reduce detail. There's a lot of detail for a lot of GIS purposes. You may not want that, so we've got this 3D bounding box replacer to just dumb it down in that way. And so the Revit thing is still grinding, and in a moment, I should see that we're getting, okay, there's the 2D view of this thing, and if I go to 3D, it would start to show up in this in our inspector, but that's just us. If I go out back here and get my fancy finder, and we look at Revit, we should see we've got my output directory, and I've got a PDF of the landfill building, and let's just change my shader to be shaded illustration, and let's just go clicking around in here. So you can see the building in all of its fine glory, I hope. at home, and we'll also take a quick look because we skimmed out a bunch of attributes from the Revit file itself, and hopefully folks can see this. Oh, what was that, Mark?
It wasn't me, but I heard a beep. Oh.
I think we're still okay. It wants to take voice dictation from me. Not sure what brought that about, but if we zoom this up to, let's say, 200%, you can see we've got a list of the kinds of things we need to order if we're going to build one of these for ourselves. And one thing that I always notice is that no Revit model is complete without urinals. So we always see that in every one that we've done. So that's good to know that that's underway. So that's on the Revit side. Lastly, oh yeah, we just have some different. Oh yes, I have a bonus demo. The bonus demo, which we only have like a minute to do, is the SketchUp demo. So let's take a look at my SketchUp demo, where I'm reading using the new SketchUp reader that's in FME. I'm going to read an interesting 3D model and some rasters, and I won't run it because we're running out of time, but I'm going to read a 3D model and some rasters, and when I'm done with that, again, the SketchUp reader will give you this workspace. You can try it at home. If I open a recent file, I should see that we have the Super Bowl trophy, and we have added, using FME, the 2 teams. Now, there they go. I'm excited about this because I've been a Broncos fan since the 80s and since moving to BC Seahawks, so no matter what, I'm going to be happy. I will say that there seems to be a bug in the workspace because when I ran it this morning, only the Seahawks were on the trophy. So this is last night's copy, so I'm not sure if that's foreshadowing or what, but I'm definitely not going to run that workspace.
That was very neutral of you. Very good.
Yes, yes. So that's it, folks. I realize are we out of time, Mark?
I think we are, but if folks want to stay for 5 minutes, we can just go through some of the questions.
Yeah, you can. And I'll just mention that we're going to go on the road. Check out our World Tour stuff, our big FME user conference. Mark, you're coming all the way from Manitoba to that, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good. So we'll see you there. If you want to get even a deeper dive, check out the training. Mark has been working round the clock to get this up to date, and it's going live on Feb 18. Is that right, Mark?
That's right. Somebody asked me when it would be available, and we should get it in the next week or two. That will be available out there for users.
So, and that's free. Just sign up. Anybody can take it. You don't even have to have FME. Of course, we have lots of other places you can find stuff. We just unrolled our new community yesterday. So if you're not familiar with that, go to fmepedia.com, sign up. There's also a chatter there where we'll be chiming in for FME Chit Chat, which is a little different than questions and answers, but we'll see how that all...
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it should be good. And you can go to this landing page, FME 2014, to check out more. And there's the contest with exciting prizes. Explore FME more. We really spent a lot on these prizes, so I hope that people take advantage of this contest. The Anki Drive is pretty fun. If you haven't seen that, you need an iPhone though to be able to use that. But
yeah, someone was asking if there was a contest to win a spork, and I thought, well,
we should.
If you want a spork, but
yeah, this is a little bit fancier. We should have sporks, titanium spork as a prize next year.
Maybe we
so
should.
I know some folks may need to leave, and please do to head off. But anybody else?
Through the questions. So I see a few users were talking about SharePoint, and we have plans for that, I believe.
Yes, that's right. If you come to the World Tour, I promise I'll demo it. There we go.
Excellent. Well, now we've got to do it.
Yes.
And ArcGIS server, do we have a story for that, how we integrate?
Well, for reading it, yeah. I mean, I think that this feature service thing and a few other things like that might be fun to include.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, we could share our webcams.
We could, yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
I think it's working.
Back. So someone asked if you can share workspaces between Windows and Mac, and I don't see a reason why you can't take workspace in one and use it in the other.
Yes, I do that routinely, and we will repair file names. But you got to watch out about file name issues. But certainly things like the ArcGIS Online example will work great. Somebody asked about writing to ArcGIS Server. If we support feature services fully, which is our goal, then we would be able to write using feature services and execute updates in that way. And Bruce Harold asks, can we do geocoding using ArcGIS Online? Absolutely. There's an ArcGIS Online geocoder, and it will work lickety-split. And so that Salesforce demo that I did can easily be recast into ArcGIS Online, and tune into Don's webinar in a little while, a few days time to see something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think somebody asked which language is used in the text editor. So when you edit an attribute and you can start putting things in there, I'm guessing it's just plain text with FME functionality.
It is. Basically, there isn't a formal language for that. If you wanted to use formal language, you could use the Python caller or TCL caller, or wait for it, a JavaScript caller coming soon. But in that normal editor, it's really just FME language.
So JavaScript transformer. Look forward to that one.
I'm not promising Tyson I'll demo it on the road, but I think it'll be there by then. Yeah.
Super.
I think we can wind it up there, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we really appreciate you taking the time today. I'm sorry we went a wee bit over, but those of you that had to go, I hope you did. And otherwise, the recording will be online soon, except it won't have Mark and my faces, I don't think, will it?
I've got no idea.
We'll find out.
Let's
Stephanie will tell us.
And if there are any questions we didn't get around to answering, we'll certainly follow up and get to you on those.
Yes. All right. So from the Crystal Gondola here in beautiful Surrey, British Columbia, this is Dale Lutz signing off.
And this is Mark signing off from beautiful sunny Manitoba.
Okay. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.